G'day, I'm Tim Thompson. Have you ever wondered what an apiarist does when they inspect their hives? Well, today I'm with master bee breeder Andrew from Australian Apiary Supplies, and he's going to do a hive inspection and talk us through the process and what he's looking for. Andrew, how are you, mate?
Very good, and you?
Not too bad. I loved our last video together. Today, you're going to unleash the smoker.
Yes, definitely.
And we're going to open up a hive just before winter hits.
Correct.
And check how they're doing and see how much food they need. Is that
Absolutely,
right?
That's what we'll do. And you literally just light it up, pop it in, wait for it to take off. Then we pop some more in and wait for it to do its stuff, and then slowly it'll just light up and smoke. So the smoke does two things. It calms the bees down in a couple of ways. It affects the pheromones, the spread of the pheromones, and also it gives them an emergency sort of instinct. So they go, there is potentially a bushfire here. We need to gorge ourselves on honey in case we do a runner, and in case we need to escape. And the theory behind that is also that if they gorge themselves on honey, that they can't sting as effectively, which I think is total bollocks. I can guarantee you when they're unhappy or they're not in the right state of mind, it doesn't matter how full of honey they are, they will come and do you. So as soon as the embers light up, then it actually starts pumping. So we're getting the... And here, so these two hives at the moment I'm working on, I'm feeding this one up. So normally what you do is you give them about 3 or 4 puffs of smoke underneath there through the entrance. And here we're feeding these bees, so we'll give them a little bit of a...
And you're working this hive from the rear?
Yeah, so what happens is you don't get in the way of the flight path. So the flight path is at the front, and if you stand at the front, you'll find that they're very, very polite and educated, so it's going to be like Melbourne Airport, and they'll start doing circles in the air to wait for you to get out the way. Once you get out the way, everyone's in and out. And this is what's called a top feeder. So we put sugar syrup in here, and the bees will come up the side from underneath, and they will go munchy, 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 and get the carbs from the sugar syrup. So this hive specifically is a hungry hive, so it didn't get enough resources or enough nectar during the season. So before we pack them down, we need to feed them up. So if we open her up, let's see, they shouldn't be too bad, these ones. They're nice little puppies. So you can see that's where we got the girls. And bees should be docile, so this is the ideal situation. Some people go that bees can be angry. They're not angry. You just need to manage them properly. So when a beehive is hungry, to give you a perspective on quantities, last season I had, so this is called a brood box where the babies live. I run 2 brood boxes in most of my beehives, so you have a stronger colony. When I was packing down a 2 brood box hive which was hungry, they went through 6.5 kilos of syrup in the first 24 hours. They went through about 6 kilos in the following 36 hours, and then through another 4 kilos by the end of the week. So we're talking about 15, 18 kilos without blinking an eyelid. And then on the other side of it, when nectar comes through and they're bringing honey in, I've seen them produce an 8-frame box in a week. So we're talking about 30 kilos of honey in 7 days, 7 to 8 days. So that's not normal. So normally it'll take a couple of weeks. But they move. Your question about how much honey can a hive produce, if you have good quality stock, so good quality bees, which have good yields, on a good year, I would bring in probably about 2.5 harvests at about 75 kilos a pop. So we're talking about 180 kilos or thereabouts per hive without much hassle. But then on the other hand, when you have poor years, so this year and last season, because of La Nina and the rain and so on, were very poor, I'd be lucky to harvest probably 10 to 15, because I need to actually maintain all that food for the girls themselves, so they don't go hungry through winter. And that's just backyarding. Nectar chasing is a different kettle of fish, because if you take your beehives to the source, generally you'll take them, you'll drop off the hive there, you come back after a week, you put on another super. Super is what you call a box where you actually harvest the honey. You put on a super, come back the week after, put on another super, come back the week after, put on another super, or harvest depending what's happening, and then you come and collect all the 3 supers of honey. So in an 8-frame box like this, you'll get about 35 kilos. In a 10-frame box, you get about 40-50 kilos for the whole box. That's how much it'll weigh. Poor quality bees, well, it's hit and miss. And then, you know, honey is something that people normally start with, having this perception that, oh, I'm going to get bees, I'm going to get honey. And as we say, generally it becomes a byproduct. The pollination that they do is incredible. So generally you'll read peer-reviewed articles that yields increase for between 10 and 30%. We found that they'll increase between probably 30 up to 50%. So we're talking huge numbers. We had neighbors about here, I think it was a little bit after I got the bees in here, there was the following year, they said, oh, your bees? And I said, what happened? I thought they were chasing. He goes, oh, I've got so many vegetables, I've got to put them on the side of the road now. So the yields are huge. Another story I remember, I had a gentleman up in Wallen, he had a small orchard, neglected trees, and he said he never got cherries, and it was all very, very poor. And I said to him, I bet you if I put a beehive in there, you'll get much better fruit. And he said, nah. I said, okay, if it works, you pay me for the pollination. If it doesn't, you lose nothing. He said, cool, no problem. Kept them there for about 3-4 weeks, because there was a few different plants, and he phoned me up, would have been several months after that. He goes, those bloody bees of yours. And I thought, what happened now? And he's going, the bloody branches are breaking now, there's too much fruit on them. And it's absolutely crazy how they affect the plants. And you know, whether it's a holistic experience or whatever it is, it makes no difference. Obviously the natural pollination has huge effects on it. Same with flowers. My wife loves her roses, and since the bees come in, they start flowering 3-4 times a year, and it's like really bizarre, and you think, well, what is it? And the mental health, doing inspections, it's just relaxing. You have to be very systematic in what you do. I used to do a lot of construction as well, so in construction everything is money, hour, time, and it has to be precise, and you've got to work really hard. When you come out of that job and you come home, you're still in that sort of mindset. When you have to do a hive inspection, you have to calm down, you have to systematically lay out all your tools so you know what you're doing, why you're making that inspection. Normally you'd suit up as well, depending on the time of year, because you need to analyze how the girls are going to be behaving. So if the weather conditions aren't right, they can become more defensive. So they're practically the same as humans. If the weather conditions aren't good for you, they're not going to be great for them. So if it's humid, they can get a little bit more narky. If it's windy, they can get more narky, just like humans would. This type of weather, it's ideal. So when you do an inspection on a hive, they're quite happy to sort of let you work it. But that's when you get good bees. If you get a swarm and you get poor bees, they will chase you. Like those are called angry bees or chasing bees. And in those scenarios, by professionals, they're not favored, because you don't want to be chased by bees. So you'll give them a puff, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We open a box. So now we need to crack the frames with the hive tool, because they will what's called propellize it. It's effectively like a super glue. And you can see what's happening. So in this one, for instance, there's nothing. So this hive will be hungry, I know that. But generally, you go through all the frames and see what's happening in the...
And you do this about every 10 days?
Yeah. If you check normally just the center 3-4 frames, that's usually ample. See, so you got babies there, there's brood there. You can give them a bit of a shake, they don't mind. So with these ones, I can tell that they haven't got a huge amount of food. So there we go, there's nectar coming in there. And babies there, come on, right in there, there's little larvae all around there. So that's how you know that the queen is fine. There's nothing wrong with that queen.
So we don't have to go searching for the queen, we can leave her alone and give her a privacy.
Yep, so that...
Need to see evidence.
There we go. That's it. So that's practically... So this is the brood pattern. Exactly that. So they'll put honey up there normally. And that honey will be used for the babies and for them. This stuff on the side here is called propolis. This is liquid gold.
Yeah, that's... health people love that stuff, don't they?
Crazy. Crazy. So you don't throw that out. And what we'll do is we'll quickly crack open the bottom one to have a bit of a look, see what's happening in there. See, and if you did want to, you can do a hive inspection without a suit, but the reality of it is, it's just so much easier and quicker that if you suit up. But you know, to prove a point, I will do nukes and hive inspections to show people that it can be done, but then most of the time I'll still suit up because...
And because you're using good quality bees,
yeah,
they're not as aggressive.
Oh, absolutely. There's
Whereas hungry animals, mean animals,
you got it.
Lean animals, aren't they?
That's exactly it. The little girls, oh, I love you. They are so gorgeous. And they make different noises. See, so normal part of an inspection would be to get rid of all this wax, and this is all beeswax.
Now biosecurity is a pretty important part of all of this as well, isn't it, Andrew?
Biosecurity is a crucial part, so we have to make sure that we have clean tools, we sterilize our tools.
You sterilise between every hive, don't you?
Normally apiary, but yes, you will be able to tell whether there's an issue. If there is an issue, you will definitely sterilize all your tools. If I do inspections for people, for instance, I change bee suits, that gets cleaned, and have new tools for every single inspection. So here you can tell that they're nice and healthy. There's not much honey in there, but we know that because it's coming to the end of the season, so I know that this particular hive is going to need to be fed a little bit of syrup, so I'll probably give them probably about 5-10 kilos of syrup for winter, because she's still laying a lot of eggs, which is great, and a lot of brood, but there is not much nectar coming in at the moment. So we'll pop them back in. If you do a full inspection, you would literally start at one end and inspect every single frame, and you do that usually once a year or a season. You pop it back on top, and that's practically an inspection. So you can do an inspection in about 5-10 minutes comfortably. When you first start, it'll probably take about half an hour.
And you do that every 10 days?
Pretty much, yep. Every 10 days or every 14 days, because a lot of people work, so they'll do it on the weekend. See, the girls are starting to get a little bit bothered now, because they're starting to bounce off the hood. So the first thing that they do is when they're getting bothered, they'll go bounce. That's normally the time when you say, oh, I think I'll go and have a cup of coffee now.
Let's go and have a cup.
I think so, let's do it. This would be probably one of a premium quality frame. And this will have about 3.5 kilos of honey in there. And that will keep for 1,000 years.
Guys, if you like this kind of video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, give it a thumbs up, and there's plenty more on timthompson.ag.